Hey guys, welcome back to the Hear Me Roar pod. I am Tobi and my co-host is none other than the Kate Save, which you might know her from Shark Tank. She's also founder of BeFit Foods and picked up Telstra's Business of the Year award too. Kate?
Well, Tobi, you've got a super impressive CV, 25 years in global commercialisation experience, and you founded Creative Cubes, Australia's leading co-working space and real estate business.
All right, let's get on with the pod. Kate, episode 2.
Excited to be here.
Episode 1 was fantastic. Hayley Rose is coming on here later today for episode 2. But before we go there, what's lighting you up in the world today?
Do you know what? I love that my girls have gone back to school, and I know yours have too.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a year 7 kid, and I was asked by the school to do a talk to their year 10s. Little did I know they had 450 year 10s that I was speaking to. And the brief was really inspire them, motivate them. And I did this whole talk on dreaming big and not letting anybody limit yourself. And the only person who can is you.
Yes.
And it was just, it lit me up.
Yeah.
Seeing their faces, getting their interactions. And if you want them to get really vulnerable, give out prizes.
Yeah,
so
wow.
Ask questions, give out prizes, and the things these kids came out with blew my mind.
Yeah.
So inspiring.
I've got a year 7 student as well this year.
Yeah.
My Maddie went into high school. She graduated last year, and I'm just so lit up by her.
Oh.
We've been catching the train together this week to get her to and from school, and she was really nervous about getting on the train. Day 1, day 2, friends waited for her at the arriving train station. They missed the train but waited for her at the train station, and I sort of like faded to the background like the old Homer Simpson thing, the meme. Faded to the background and let her just go off and do her thing. Day 3, Dad, I got this, having never caught a train before. And now yesterday she got off on one station and went and got Yochi ice cream, or Froyo. Got back on, went 2 stops past our place to sort of walk the shopping strip with her friend, then jumped back on, came back to it. Now it's just like I'm almost obsolete from a rotation perspective. But yes, I think these kids, for me, I'm just lit up.
It's amazing. Yeah, I agree. There's nothing better, love and work.
Love and work. You keep saying that. Kate, coming up, we have Hayley Rose. Do you want to just give us a quick high level?
So Hayley Rose work with lots of the Fortune 500 companies, and I think since that, having such a long career there, she's gone into strategy with her own company, Archer, and really what she said to me was getting people to actually action the strategy. So sometimes in the big organisation, she could put things in place, but then they might get shelved if there was other priorities. So she wanted to see change. She wanted to see, how can she blow things up and really help people to achieve things that she can see in the future in the strategy and get it right.
All right. So up after this ad break from our great sponsor, Purpose Productions, we'll have Hayley Rose. Guys, you've seen me put out content for years. It all started with James Shadrach from Purpose Productions. We've filmed over 800 vlogs, several hundred different pieces of content that has helped me take my business to the next level. We use Purpose Productions for all the content, pods, vlogs, and storytelling that we produce. Check out purposeproductions.co to learn how James and his amazing team can help you scale your business and get your message out there. Guys, welcome back to the show. Hayley, it's such a privilege to have you here for a bunch of different reasons. Firstly, you and I have been communicating on LinkedIn for God knows how long.
Yeah.
Then we finally caught up at an event that was held here at Creative Cubes. And then a couple of days ago, it might have been yesterday, but it felt like a couple of days ago, Kate's like, hey, I've got an amazing guest that I want to bring on the show. So apart from physically saying hello to you and hi, I've got to run, I think were the words, nice, I'm Hayley, we had a hug, then you had to go, I got to go. This is actually our first time in real life.
It is.
And we've kind of connected with each other for God knows how long, but it's a privilege to have you here. So welcome to Hear Me Roar.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Privileged to be here as well.
And it's so cool to have you in here. And we usually talk about a little bit health. Can you open with your morning routine? Because you took me to your gym the other day and it blew my mind.
It's actually funny because I do have a bit of a morning routine, but then some days like today, it completely went out the window. But I'll give you a good day. I'm not too militant, but generally wake up. I always check my phone. I wish I didn't, but I do. But then religiously, I meditate. So I did a Vedic meditation course maybe like 7-8 months ago.
Yep.
And for me, like my brain is always on.
Yeah.
So doing that has been unreal. Sadly, I've missed the afternoon ones, which are probably the most important. But always do that. Journaling sometimes, but then always exercise as well. So the non-negotiables is meditation and exercise.
So interesting you say non-negotiables. For me, a non-negotiable for me is I wake up super early, 4 a.m. But I actually don't look at my phone until I've completed all my work. In as much as I get up, I do a bit of a housework in the morning, then I go into the gym and work out for probably anywhere from an hour to an hour and 15.
Wow.
I still haven't looked at the phone.
Good.
On days, it's not. Yeah, thank you. But like on days where I don't follow that, my brain's fried the whole day.
Yeah.
If I wake up and stick my phone on straight away, the rest of the day I recognize that my productivity and output is actually not good.
Yeah.
So I've had to, you say you're not militant. I am, because I understand the difference between Tobi looking at the phone first thing and Tobi looking at it like an hour and a half, 2 hours later. It's a game changer for me.
Yeah, I have to agree. I'm not... I will post on social media, particularly for work and things like that, but I don't look on social media.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm missing out on what's going on in half the world, but I'm okay with that because my husband knows it all. So without fail, he'll tell me whose birthday it was, if I've messaged them, what's going on in the world.
I don't want to brag, but most husbands do know everything.
I'm not going to comment on this. I'm going to leave you guys to argue that one out.
But I do find if you do get on social media and scroll, it just it ruins your life
it's
in the morning.
mind-numbing
It's
as
just
well.
not.
Look,
it's
it is
the dopamine effect as well, isn't it? Essentially,
Yeah.
like when you go first thing in the morning and you have that, your brain's then wired for those quick, cheap dopamine hits.
Yes.
I'm totally on board with it. I just haven't quite got to the point where I'm doing it every day, but you've inspired me.
Well, I just
it's gonna be my
recognize, like I did a
non-negotiable.
personal experiment, right?
Yeah.
In fact, Simi and I, my wife, used to, and we've probably just got to get back onto it, but we used to challenge each other to 3-month challenges.
Yeah.
And we've done almost everything. I think that might be one that you and I do, a 3-month challenge.
Yes, please. I'd love that.
To not look at your phone. Give yourself an hour.
Yeah.
Just wake up.
It's on. I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in.
All right.
Thank you.
We are not way off topic because I think people listening will actually appreciate that, but that's not what you're here for.
So tell us, how do you come up with these strategies? How do you help people see the vision for their businesses and what it could be?
So it's a bit of an art, not a science. I think everyone's always like, what's your playbook? What's the thing? And a lot of people out there have their like, here are the 5 things that everyone must do. I kind of don't have that same mentality. I guess for me, I've got such a varied background. So I've kind of worked in big corporate, I've worked in management consulting, I've worked in product and marketing and psychology and strategy. And so I've learned all these amazing different ways of thinking. And also advertising, I didn't mention that. And so what I kind of do is like bring all those different modalities. The intention is always to look at a customer. I think a lot of people sometimes find something, then shoehorn a customer into it. Like the centerpiece is like figuring out what people really want and anticipating what that would look like now, but also in the future. And figuring out if you should be serving the same person that you're serving now or thinking about serving new people in the future and like what meaningful things can you do. So it's a really human-centered approach, but then looking at some smarts around like, what businesses are doing, what are the trends kind of happening.
Is this brand and marketing or is this operational efficiencies? Like at what layer of the business are you applying this?
I wouldn't say it's operational efficiencies. Like I think you have to own what you're good at and what you're not. Like I'm not the operations person.
Neither am I.
Yeah. And I've learned to be okay with that, right? For me, it's more around, I find brand marketing and product kind of intersect one another. I don't really know how to keep them separate in some respects. So I'm looking at more like, what are the things that you should be doing in terms of the services that you're offering to people in the world. I guess how you show up in terms of the brand and the communication is part of that.
Love that.
But my stuff is more centered around like the product and service, and then how you take that to market in terms of who it's for, what you should be saying, which channel, that kind of stuff.
I saw that you've generated over $150 million in revenue for some of the companies you've worked for.
That was just this week.
Yeah. I wish.
So what are some of these big projects or something that's been pretty, pole in the sand type thing? Like, what can you hang your hat on that you love that you helped to put into strategy and actually got rolled out?
It's a really interesting thing that you say, like put into strategy and rolled out. Anyone who's worked in management consulting will know the pain of having so many brilliant ideas that never get rolled out. And I think that's some of the frustrations of why I've got in today to what I'm doing now. But I think the thing that I'm really proud of is not the $150 million in revenue, actually. Like I think I'm really proud of when I'll give you an example. Like I've done a bit of a workshop process with Amazon through another company, Think and Grow, and we went and met with...
I love those guys.
Yeah,
JJ?
they're great. Yeah, JJ's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so we met with these founders and leaders, all different size of businesses, from like $1 million to like nearly $1 billion. And we essentially went there and dissect their business in about 2 hours in a workshop. And the biggest joy that I got was seeing these people and kind of saying, we want to go to the US and we want to do this and want to do all these things. And actually in 2 hours, actually saying to them, you're not focusing on the right thing. And actually, if you focus on that, you're going to completely destroy your business. And so it's actually unraveling a belief that somebody has that's generally rooted in ego. Like we need to be in the US because all good brands are in the US. And actually saying, stay in China, do what you do well and do it better, And so actually for me, that brings me a lot more satisfaction than helping a Woolworths or a Treasury or a Vogue come up with, more ways to make money.
I love that it's rooted in ego too, because a lot of businesses make horrific decisions just based on ego. And I mean, in my husband's organisation, he sees big companies go with big service providers because they've got a shiny, shiny offering, but actually behind the scenes, nothing's getting done. They blow all this money, but the new GM comes in and goes, I want to go with this company because they look amazing and they're based somewhere impressive, but never works out. It's actually the hard work in the end, and sometimes the smaller companies that do the better job.
Well, there's like 3 things that are flashing through my head. First is every basketball team needs a Shaquille and a Kobe, a big monster to serve a certain part of the team.
Yeah.
And you need someone that's going to be able to pivot pretty quickly and get back on defense really quickly, right? And so Shaquille, he can turn really slowly like a big ship, whereas sometimes you need to be able to pivot pretty quickly, and some of these larger organizations can't do that.
Oh my God, they can't.
Yeah. And so I think that's how you've made, a fantastic living for yourself in being able to be nimble and pivot and ebb and flow with the peaks and the troughs of the demands as you see them in real time versus sign off, red tape, ego, brand, billing. Some of these bigger companies are just billing where you could do it for half the price and make double the profit because you're a smaller shop and you can get impact for your customer pretty quickly.
Yeah. I think it's funny. I was reflecting on this the other day. At the end of the day, we're all looking for confidence in business, right? Yeah. The future's completely uncertain. Anyone who tells you that they know exactly what's going to happen is wrong.
Yep.
No one knows. And so all you're looking to do is say, how can I be confident that whatever I'm putting in my strategy is going to work? Be it I'm a small business and there's 3 of us, or I'm $1 billion business and I've got hundreds and hundreds of employees and shareholders that are riding on this. For a big business to have confidence, they're like, well, if I get a McKinsey or a Bain or so-and-so, whatever they say, I can be pretty confident about because they're smart.
Yep.
So you pay for confidence. Yep. Or I'll get this consumer report and pay for trends because whatever that says will bring me confidence. And then I look at, leaders and founders of smaller organizations, and confidence comes from completely different things. It comes from conviction in your purpose and your vision, or confidence in your hunch. You're like, nah, I've only spoken to 10 people, but I just know that this is a thing. And so it comes from very different places. But I think the reason why people try and get help or make decisions all come down to confidence.
Hayley, can you... I fully agree with that. There's a lot... Like, I find myself on the weekends watching my daughter's soccer game, and coaches drawn up this whole strategy and this fundamentals, and my daughter will almost like stay in one section of the field even though she needs to be on the other side, because the theory says no, I play in the defense on the right wing, or I'm a right wing, I can't go over to the left side. And I'm just yelling my head off, go to the ball, just go to the ball.
Do you think?
Yeah. Right? Do you find that making like the theory and the action sometimes are like hurting the business?
100%.
Yeah?
100%. Like, I'll give you an example. So when I was at Accenture, I had people who were like, were trained in design thinking and very regimented in processes. So how you do customer research. And I was never trained in that stuff. I've learned on the job with a lot of these things. And so I came in semi-blind, but in a naive way. And I was like, we don't need to spend 4 hours or 4 days doing this. This is completely stupid. Like, but the theory says, like, doesn't matter. Like, what are we actually trying to do here? And so I think in that element, it's like theory is there to help you. It's structured thinking.
Sure.
But it's also for lazy people to a degree. You hide behind a theory and a construct and a framework.
Yep.
I kind of believe that frameworks are made to be broken. They're there to help you organize thinking in a logical way, but then in real life, you can be like, well, let's break it a little bit.
So two things. Oh, this is so juicy for me. Yeah. Go. 2 things, right? I worked with IDEO out of Chicago for 6 months, and developed a dog walking.
I remember you talking about this.
Called Zingy, which we sold to Rover out of Seattle very quickly. And I loved what IDEO were doing, but it took them 6 months to get to a conclusion. And by the way, $1 million later wasn't my money. It was the company that acquired me. They threw me in as a vice president of commercialization, and I had to go through this process. Meanwhile, I'm sitting in Santa Monica, California, watching Travis Kalanick work out how to disrupt taxis under a brand called Uber. Yeah. And I'm just like, why can't we just do that for dog walking? And so we went on this 6 months program with IDEO, and $1 million later, maybe even more, to sort of like we could have been executing for 6 months. We could have gotten dirty, cut some bruises and just made stuff happen before. But I understand the framework. The second part of it is that, I take my kids bowling on a shitty, rainy Melbourne winter day. And my role there is to put the bumper on the lane. You can throw the ball however you want. You can roll it down your little device. You can throw it between your legs. All I know is, so long as the frame is up, they're going to hit a pin. And it doesn't matter to me which way they want to throw it.
Totally.
I wonder whether or not some of your work is around that bumper aspect.
I like that analogy.
Yeah. I use it all the time. People listening to this pod now are like, oh, not again, Tobi.
Not the bumper.
Not the bumper. But actually, I wonder whether or not a lot of the work that you actually do are creating the framework so that they can actually go and execute it however they feel like executing in the moment. But with your theory and in practice, they're going to be successful. They may not hit a strike, they may not hit a spare, but they're going to hit something.
I like that analogy. The one thing I would say is they won't always be successful, but in failure there's success. So I think the whole ethos for me, and I think just to share an analogy, you mentioned the IDEO thing. When I was at Accenture, we charged $1 million, 4 people, 4 months. What you would get is a big ass poster. Yep. And this poster would give you the future vision of your company, and it was beautiful, and it was the customer going through all these things. People would pin it up on their office, and I can tell you probably one of those things in maybe 1 or 2 years actually saw the light of day.
Right.
And so you think about that investment for a big corporate, it is dumb as hell. And then, we rode that way for a long time, and then eventually leaders are like, what did we get for that $1 million that we spent with them? And it was not much. So we as a business had to figure out that, because people were kind of moving away from that. But
so now it's $1 million for Hayley for 4 months.
Exactly.
And you're building a $150 million business.
Exactly.
I'm in.
Well, that speed to market part I think is really important. So Nathan Chan, Founder Magazine, interviewed over 100 billionaires. He said the number one piece of advice that he's taken away from any interview was from the founder of Xero, small accounting firm, New Zealand founded. He said was speed to market. If you can do things faster than anyone else, you'll probably win, and that's what he built the foundation of his business on.
Two of my friends, Hezi and Gabby Leibovich, founded a small little business called Catch.com.au, which sadly died.
I was going to say,
that's when
but not under. Well, actually, I think this plays perfectly into our conversation. They were cooking up ideas at midnight and executing at midday. They built this business. They made off with a couple $100 million each. Phenomenal outcome. And several months later, this big juggernaut, I think Wesfarmers.
Wesfarmers
switches it off.
I know,
because they just couldn't make it work.
There's a lot of nuance in there, and I actually do some work with Wesfarmers, so I kind of understand a bit behind that. But I think there's two kind of story tracks going with the one that you mentioned before around like getting things speed. You only know what people want once you put something in front of them. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make is they do research. So like they might speak to 10 people, they do a survey. There's so many survey tools out there. We're like, would you buy this or that? Or do you want my product or not? And they rely on that data saying, well, 75% of people said they'd buy our dog food. And I was like, and what about in the supermarket when you put your dog food in front of the other dog food? Do you think 75% of those people are going to actually buy it? Because that is the number, if I'm going to be committing 100K as a small business to manufacturing, that I would be looking at. And so the question is then how do you put something and I use in market because it's not always a real thing, but you're getting a sense of someone's demand. And how do you get someone's demand before you actually go and manufacture or build any product? And that's we talked about the bumpers. That's kind of what I try and do. So I'm trying to give people as much confidence around whether or not something will work through demand insights.
Totally.
Basically.
And those demands, sorry, Kate, those demand insights cannot be mum, sister, brother, aunt, uncle. Anyone that loves you unconditionally cannot come into that 75% of people that would buy this. It has to be consumer.
So true. But going to that theory of what we know and what we don't know, and that confidence in, the dinosaur age is very much around this is the textbook, this is what we've been told. And Huberman did a podcast with a professor, I think it was just this week or last week. And literally this professor said there is nothing we know. And Huberman, he's a scientist, and he goes, well, we know about gravity, and we know this and we know that. And he's like, well, do we? And he challenged everything. And it was the most fascinating podcast because he literally could say that up wasn't up and down wasn't down. Like everything he just threw. And it was really like to stumble Huberman is a pretty big thing. A scientist who's got a wealth of knowledge, and it really makes you question everything that you think you know. He was telling us 1 + 1 is not 1, because if you've got 2 puddles of water and you put them together, you get 1. 1 + 1 is 1. He gave all these analogies.
Now you're blowing my mind.
What do you mean? Wait.
God.
I knew 1 and 1 is 3 whole time.
And Huberman would just say, but we know this because this is fact. And then he'd blow your mind and you'd go, maybe it's not always like that. We don't know anything. And that really opened my mind.
So our listeners don't know anything about how to get in touch with Hayley.
Well, they can go to wearearcher.co or on LinkedIn. Hayley Rose is probably the 2 easiest ways. Yeah.
So I'll link all of Hayley's details in the show description. So it's an easy click. If you want to learn more, I don't know what else, like this, for me, I could go on all day.
Oh, it's amazing.
It is amazing.
Let her dissect the business.
Well, so just before you go, throw something at us.
Throw something at you.
Yeah, not literally, because I don't want to get hurt. But what's the one thing that people should be, or companies should be looking at today when it comes to the lens in which you look on the business?
What I'm going to flip that and saying, here are the 3 things that you shouldn't be doing, because I think sometimes that's easier. and sometimes this feels a bit controversial, but the 3 big mistakes that I'm seeing businesses make when it comes to figuring out what they should do next when it comes to growth. The first is don't listen to what your customers say. And that sounds counterintuitive, but what people say they want and what they will actually buy are 2 different things. And we kind of went through that previously.
So I love that because, once upon a time, Henry Ford said if you ask people what they want, they say more faster horses or whatever.
Yeah.
However, is it our responsibility to inspire them to want to buy something from us? Rather than say, I want more horses, I went and created this thing with 4 wheels, and you put your foot down and it goes faster than a horse. Is it our responsibility as product and business owners to not listen to them, but actually inspire them to shift their mindset?
Yeah, I think it's about helping them understand new ways to solve their problems, and they don't know what those are. And I think there's something about lifting your gaze. I think it's really easy to kind of say, well, if you say, make a drink and it's watermelon, like, well, maybe people want grape. Wouldn't that be great? Yep. And people are thinking small because it's safer. And so I think my hope is that more people actually think around how to improve the lives of their customers by thinking more broadly. So who are you serving? I think that the busy mum is an archetype that a lot of people look to and understand. It's like, okay, what point of her morning routine are you helping her with? It's like the lunchbox, allowing her to put a healthy treat in her child's lunchbox. Okay.
Bang.
What's happening on either side of that? She's trying to do exercise. She's trying to get the other kid ready. She's trying to deal with 3 kids who have very different needs when it comes to taste and what they like. It's coming down to then at the schoolyard, her healthy lunch is getting swapped for chips and lollies for someone else whose mum maybe doesn't have the same ethos around health. So how do you look more broadly around that mum and solve more of those problems? Because what happens then is when you're part of that mum's life, you are ingrained in her lifestyle, and it's going to make it really difficult for that mum to then go and choose a different muesli bar. And so I think people are thinking too narrow when it comes to growth, and my hope is that more people are thinking more broadly.
So Hayley, I've spent big money with big company, and I've spent little money with little company. What are the 3 things, if I've got 3 different options, which route am I going with?
Interesting, because I actually had this conversation with the founder literally yesterday. They have 12 months left of runway, and they basically what do we do next? There's 3 options on the table. Where do we go? And so I think there's general questions that you can ask yourself, and some are kind of business centric, but some are human centric. The first is what business do you actually want to be in? I think that's something that not many people think about, because I think you could be I want to be the biggest business in the world. I want to be in all around the world. And I would ask you, do you want to live in other countries? How does your family feel about that?
It's tough. I kind of did it. And one of my regrets was that I didn't actually stay smaller and closer.
Yeah.
Because, we had people wanting product in Portuguese. I had the Japanese wanting it in Japanese.
Yeah.
And I'm like this guy just traveling the world trying to sell some stuff. And communication is probably the biggest ingredient in business.
Yeah.
And if you fail to communicate, you fail to execute. And so my encouragement, having done it, is don't go too big. And actually what I should have done when I went to the US, because I went to the US to conquer the US, I should have stayed in just California. But instead we were in every state, and that just wore me out over a 10-year period.
Yeah.
So that resonates.
Yeah. So what business do you want to be in? And it comes down to what's your vision of what you want to be serving, but also you as a human being, what do you have the appetite to do?
Yep.
Secondly, who are the people around you? How well can you execute these 3 things? If one's really sales dominated, are you the hungry salesman that's going to go door to door and knock down all these big businesses? Or are you just the product guy who's really good at building tech? Because they're very different skill sets that are going to allow you to go in very different directions. And then I think it's also about understanding where do you have license to play in a problem that a customer wants solved? And I think sometimes a lot of strategies, they're making assumptions about those things. So figuring out what's the actual problem here? So there's 3 growth strategies on the table. Why are you choosing A versus B versus C? You're talking about building a new widget. You're talking about entering a new market. What gives you an understanding that that's actually something that people want?
Yep.
Yeah.
And who else is playing in that space? And what can you bring that's different?
Yes.
And the 4th thing is can you think differently about this? And I think growth is hard, it's expensive, not everyone has the money. And so sometimes it's about saying, like, what do you have in your business? Be it people, be it tech, be it products, be a process that you could actually sell to someone else, like the Amazon AWS example, because those things don't actually require that much capital to actually reorient and drive new revenue.
Yep.
And if you do that, you can then probably then generate more money to think about more exciting new products and services.
Yep.
But sometimes people forget about those things that they could, sell.
So it's what you're actually really good at. What is that purpose, that thing that lights you up, that passion? Because that's going to be easiest rather than opening 100 doors and not sure which one to go through.
Yeah, we're all human, right?
Yeah.
Business is made from humans, and I think some people forget the human questions to ask when people are thinking about their business.
And sometimes it gets away from you. And so I've got tons of people that I know that they're just doing this thing because early on they had some amount of success and now it just pays the bills and they can't jump out of the stream because it's just gotten away from them.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Hayley Rose.
Well,
Amazing
thank
guest.
you. Yes,
Thank
help
you.
put all these businesses back on track and
I'll try.
inspire them. And
try.
I think there's no more important time than now.
Yes.
Watching what's happening. 27,000 businesses hit the
Toilet.
toilet.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess.
yeah,
In the last 12 months. And
Yeah.
apparently, it's supposed to be 1 in 10 small businesses
Yeah.
in the next 12 months. So,
Yeah.
the time is now.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Hayley, thank you so much.
Luna.co is a great place for you and your business to start off with phenomenal accounting and legal services. So if you're a startup or a scale-up looking for legal and finance support, or alternatively looking to raise capital, Luna.co is where you need to be starting off.
Kate, thanks for bringing Hayley on the show. That was fantastic. I could have spoken to her all day. What are the sort of couple of key takeouts for you when she was talking?
I think the big thing is how big do you actually want to go and why do you want to do it? And do you actually want to resource that as well? And what else matters in life? You've got work and love.
Yep.
Don't forget about the love because that will happen if it's just work.
I love how consistent you are with that. Work and love, because you've like shared that with me this morning, and you've stayed consistent episode with it. I think for me, we talked about this. I don't know if we talked about it with Hayley or we talked about it with Justin, but ego, right?
Yes.
And I think some people want to get so big because they're trying to potentially fill a void or actually prove something to someone when they're not necessarily being authentic to themselves. And for me, that was one of the biggest takeaways. It's sort of like, are you getting big because you want to be big? Or are you delivering something that, one, generates enough money to put food on the table for you and your family and a roof over your head? All of those are very, very important. Yeah. But are you actually doing it? Are you getting out of bed with excitement? For me, I shared with you many times that 10 o'clock to 4 a.m. in my sleep time, I am so lit up to get out of bed in the morning and attack the day with purpose. And I just wonder whether or not people are just out there doing it and going through the motions. To shed a little bit of a personal light, and we'll probably thread this through many episodes to come with our pod here, but everybody dies, but not everybody lives. And I hate to sound morbid about it.
So true, so true. The destination is the same for everybody.
Unfortunately, it is. And for me, I don't feel like I have enough time, no matter how many years I live, to go and execute all this stuff that's in my head. So I value what Hayley's doing to potentially keep the rails and the focus and not necessarily let ego penetrate that so that you stay like this. And for those of you listening and not watching, narrow focused versus like this.
And don't ask the customer. I love that. The number of times that I've been told to just survey, research, ask the customer, trust all this data that in my heart of hearts, I know that's not what we're about. That's not who we are. I really don't think people will buy this, even though they're asking for it. And we've had epic mistakes at Be Fit Food with people saying, oh, you need larger meals. So we bring in larger meals, duplicates, different sizes of meals. We can't give them away at $5 because people have actually got used to a small portion meal that's got everything they need. Now there's a bigger meal. Well, I don't need that extra food and it's not for my body. I've reduced my appetite and it's like... they ask for larger meals, but they actually don't want the larger meals.
You are the expert. that has been another fantastic episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Dare I say? I sound like my kids. Dad, don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one, guys. Thank you.